Being between a rock and a hard place is almost is pretty much what life is. I mean, in the sense that if there's anything that you want to do that is worth doing in your life, you're going to have to start at some point with a dream or an idea of what it is, and then you're going to go through the experience of what actually doing it is. But I mean, I think the point that you're referring to is really what I call the kind of psychology of failure, which is what we are being, which I think is one of the most counter-revolutionary forces in the world. The idea that what you could do is that doing anything is pointless, and that trying, if you were to try, you're more likely to fail, and so because of that, you probably shouldn't do anything and you should just stay at home. It's undoubtedly something that you deal with as a psychology in moments of massive change, because actually, in my opinion, a revolution, in as much as it is something extraordinarily beautiful and an extraordinary explosion of the most beautiful aspects of humanity, a revolution is a sign of failure. It's a sign that a country, people, the world have left things to get so bad that the only solution has become a mass popular uprising. And a revolution is a revolution against the structure of power. As soon as that uprising has, if you like, made its first parry, its first whip, its first... that structure of power remains it's there, it's organized, it's ready, it's already working. The process to change that is something that has to take and should take a long time. And so the question becomes, what do you do over that process of systemic change? Systemic change takes generations. Revolutionary change, it would not be revolutionary change if you could change it in 6 months or a year or 2 years or 3 years. One of the major problems, I believe, that we have had since there have been attempts by leadership to solve Egypt's problems is that all of the solutions that have been proposed have been based on exclusionary power, not about including the other in your political process. At times that has been extremely violent, at other times that has been institutionally violent, and what we've seen, in my opinion, is that time and time again it doesn't work. The current political establishment, its political philosophy seems to me to be based on the idea that the only solution is to police people. And I don't believe that policing people ever solves their problems. Policing should be the very, very, very last resort, and hopefully eventually a resort that you don't even need. But regardless, leave that aside. And so the real question to me is can the current political philosophy provide the kind of stability that is required for social justice to start happening in this country, for the kind of economic prosperity that brings along social justice, and I don't believe that that's possible under these frameworks, because also in order to do that, you need all sectors of society represented. In order to do that, you need to protect minority rights. I don't believe that exclusionary power ever provides real solutions, and we're in a context in which we really do require real solutions. And I don't believe that, and I believe that the question is always being asked the wrong way around. The question should not be, what do we ask of those in leadership to do? The question should be, what do we ask of ourselves? The idea that we need a savior to solve our problems is exactly what got us to this situation. Because real change in power is in the institutional frameworks, it's in the tools of power, it's in the mechanisms of power, the mechanisms of democracy. That's where the real changes happen. It's in the unions, it's in the universities, it's in education, it's in culture. The centres of power are many, and it's about how you hold power accountable. If you ask the question the other way around and you always say, what is that leader going to do to solve my problems? Then you are investing in exactly the process that eventually leads to your rights being taken away, that creates a dysfunctional system of power. Because unaccountable power always becomes more vicious, always becomes more fascist, and eventually ends up being about protecting the rights of those in power as opposed to those who are disenfranchised. And we don't just see that in Egypt, we see that the world over. And if there's one statistic which proves that, it's just that quite simply the 85 richest people in the world have equal wealth to the poorest 3.5 billion. There are major things wrong in our world. And when we look to Egypt, I believe that Egypt is one of the major intersections of every single rotten ideologies in the world. Which is to say that this revolution is part of is a break in that system, is an attempt for people to fight back. And we're seeing that the world over, I believe. The thing that we have to understand is that because a revolution is a sign of failure, the journey to solve that is going to take us a very long time, and it will be a struggle. And after we have succeeded in one element, we will move on to the next element. And after we have succeeded in that element, we will move on to the next. The idea that we should solve it, or it should be solved in 1 or 2 or 3 years, is ridiculous. And we kill ourselves with it. And so those of us who believe that revolutionary change is necessary have to understand what that process is actually asking of us. Because it's not asking just a few months of our lives. And it's not asking just for us to think for a year or do something for a year. It's asking for us to bring it into our lives. And it's also asking us to make sacrifices personally that enable the structure of power to shift.